We are live. Hello, everyone. I'd like to call the Arts, Parks, Libraries, and Entertainment Committee to order. Today is Tuesday, July 1st. If anyone is out there trying to make it to us, we're in Committee Room 4. Let me call the roll. Chair Dad? Here. Bradford?
Here.
Cap?
Here. Finally.
Eastlick?
Here.
Almost said Eslick. Ewing?
Yes.
Hancock, Lee, Stiles, Taylor, Vice Chair Vo, and Welsh. We do have a quorum. For public comment, we do have one member signed up. So with that, we'll recognize, pursuant to Council Rule 28, the public comment period at committee meetings is limited to items that appear on the committee agenda. All public comment speakers must present proof of Tennessee residency, and that has already been done, so thank you. And Ms. Christine Hall, you have signed up for both items, and that's on the agenda, so I would like to, or regarding the Arts Commission.
Yeah, it's that I'm both yes and no. There's nuance.
Understood. Well, I tell you what, I didn't understand. Well, thank you for being here. Thank you for signing up. And I will recognize you first, if you're okay with that.
Sweet, yeah.
And you're welcome to come sit, or you can sit right there where you are. Yeah, that's fine.
Cozy room.
Yeah.
Thank you. I really want to say thank you to everyone who is doing their job in this room, because especially, not just is the work so important, but right now with the tenuous circumstances and client, just all of you persevering and showing up and working for the community, I appreciate you so much, and it is so meaningful and impactful. And when we get to arts, my position, if you all are familiar, is art is life, and it nurtures us, and we need to be very conscientious about nurturing our roots. I'm here to speak specifically for the Thrive program and voice some of the concerns that community members have brought to us at Arts Equity Nashville, and that's been over the past year or so, but really several years, and really since the beginning of the Arts Commission. As we found out, I was one of the original Title VI complainants, and through that investigation, so beautifully led by our new interim executive director at Metro Arts, we noticed, of course, that historically the lion's share has gone to the top, and the artists, as came out in the study by the Arts and Business Council, at least 25%, probably more now, are considering moving away. We're being priced out. I know, a longtime resident of District 17, my property tax likely extreme increase. It's a deep concern. I want to make sure that my taxes are going in a way that benefits the most community members with the most direct route. The Thrive program gets our tax dollars into more communities. Funding artists directly in whatever way that we can is so very important. So, to see that there's so much more of an ask within the community for funding directly to artists and to the smaller end of the economic scale, reinvesting in our roots, the smaller organizations, to hear that that call has been going on for so long, but is so often drowned out by those who have historically gotten the lion's share of funding, and in fact still continue to, even now. I understand that there's strong will for people to keep what they have, but right now it's even more important to make sure we're being equitable. We're living up to that mission. We're living up to that encoded purpose. It's equity, and to realize that, we've got to make sure at least half of our dollars are going to those individual artists and smaller organizations. Dropping the amount of Thrive per project from 20 to 15,000 at this time is not a good move. I know there's some artists who will readily say they don't need that much. There's plenty more who will say that that amount allows them to level up, to build capacity, and those things, they benefit our community, they benefit our citizens. So I want to call that out. And I also want to say, I understand that the working group found fiscal sponsorship to be the route, and that's the route that's realized. It does present more barriers. So to be enacting barriers on top of barriers, I know that Metro Legal doesn't dictate policy, just, informs of and advises what's legal. Y'all, as legislators, please find a route to paying artists directly. If we can pay other contractors providing services, we can certainly pay the people who uplift and inspire our communities.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I appreciate you being here, and it means a lot, and it takes a lot to be here. So thank you, and thank you for reaching out via email as well. It's very helpful to hear from that, so thank you so much. Ms. Stiles, you're here. Wonderful.
I am.
So we've got 2 items on the agenda that are resolutions, and then we'll move into the Arts Commission presentation and hear from Interim Director Ashley Batchelder on the grants and funding criteria and additional updates. With that, with the 2 items, I'm going to put them on a consent agenda and read them out loud, and then ask folks if they would like to remove any items from consent. Does that work? Item number 1, RS 2025-1331, a resolution approving Amendment 1 to a Memorandum of Understanding between Nashville Public Library and Department of Parks and Rec for the provision of free and high-quality out-of-school time programs through the Nashville After Zone Alliance. Item number 2, RS 2025-1332, a resolution accepting an in-kind grant from Creative Parks Nashville to the Metropolitan government, acting by and through the Metropolitan Board of Parks and Recreation to fund support and expansion of Metro Parks music, theater, and visual arts. Those are the 2 items on the consent. Is there any does anyone want to remove an item? Hearing.
Move the consent. Second.
Okay. Been properly moved in second. Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Or anybody not voting. So I've got unanimously approved, 7 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting on both. So with that, thank you so much to our Parks Department liaison for hanging in there with us and being present. Interim Director Batchelder, would you like to come forward? I've already introduced you, but if you'll introduce yourself, any of the items you would like to, looks like you've got some handouts. And then what we'll do as well is probably take one of those and also put it in our committee folder online. And so if you've got this in electronic form, just send that over and we'll add it to our committee folder, just in case those who aren't here are will be able to use that. Or can access it. And then if anyone else comes in, I've got an extra one. All right, with that, I'm going to turn this over to you for the presentation. And then committee members, what we'll do is, I think, unless you've got questions in the, if folks have questions during your presentation, are you okay with taking those during that? Or would you like to hold questions until you finish your presentation?
Oh, I can do questions.
Okay, great. So if you have a question, just flag and I'll make sure.
I have a statement after she finishes.
Okay. There's a lot. Everyone's allowed to have statements or comments at any point. So anyway, thank you so much, Interim Director Batchelder. It is all you.
So my name is Ashley Batchelder. I've been the interim executive director since January the 28th of this year. And so I am here because on July 15th at your next meeting, we'll have a resolution that is our funding criteria for our upcoming grant cycle. And so the legislation that several of you supported last year asks us to come annually to present our grant criteria. What I have for you today is an overview of the criteria, but the broader package that it is part of as well. And so when the legislation comes to you at that next meeting, it's just the criteria, but I want to make sure that you understand the whole sort of picture of what we're moving forward with here. And so I also just want to recognize we have Commissioner Heather Lefkowitz, who chairs our grants committee, and Commissioner Myra Yu, who is with us as well. And so thankful there for their support too. So where we are right now is that we need to obtain your approval for the criteria so that we can open our applications. So right now, this is not about allocations. It's not about how much funding should go to the Thrive program and the operating program or how to distribute within the operating grants. That conversation happens in September. We need to approve our applications, collect applications, and then score them and award in September. So what you have here is a one-pager on the front that shows an overview of the criteria. So you have general operating support grants on the left side of the column. These are for our arts organizations that are Pretty straightforward, the criteria here. Organization must have their primary mission to support the arts. The majority of programming must be in the arts, must be based in Davidson County, Nashville, and their general operating supports are your eligible expenses there. On the right side, we have our Thrive criteria, and I've broken that down by applicant criteria as well as project criteria. And so this is our project grants that support projects or programs that are really about supporting community-driven, community-based projects. So this is for artists, individual artists, artist teams, or nonprofit organizations. There's not a change to that. That's how it has always been. And if you are not a 501c3 nonprofit applicant, you do have to have a fiscal sponsor. I know we talked about that when we were here in January, bringing you the criteria. And so that requirement is still a requirement. There's still not another mechanism that we can use to pay individuals that are not a C3 nonprofit. And I brought our sort of informational packet about that if you want more information on that.
Can I ask one question?
Sure.
Okay.
Councilmember Ewing, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. So the $750 administrative support fee, is that, am I reading that right? That that's a change from how it used to be where
Yes.
the fiscal sponsor could say up to 10%?
Correct.
Okay.
So in the current guidelines right now, we leave it up to the sponsor and the artist to sort of negotiate that. Could be 0, could be up to 10% of the grant amount. And that would come out of the grant, the approved project budget. So we heard lots of feedback throughout that just did not like that scenario on both sides, right? Whether it's the fiscal sponsor or the artist. And so we are, we've designed it now that it's a $750 flat fee that goes on top of the approved budget. So if I submit a application and have a budget approved for $15,000, the grant amount would be $15,750.
Okay.
So it does not come out of the artist budget. There's not that feeling of I need to negotiate for a lower rate or I need to find an organization that will do this at a low rate for me. And I think that that will also make some organizations more comfortable doing it as well, especially some of the smaller organizations that said, you know, it's a capacity thing, and so it's not a lot of money, right? But it's something that could pay for like a few hours of your bookkeeper who has to do some of that work on the back end.
Okay. Thank you.
So that is a change this year. And so that's just like the criteria, right? The criteria are pretty narrow and is what the resolution will ask you to consider at your next meeting. On the back, what I showed is just a high-level overview of our plans at Metro Arts for the application period. So we will be back here on July 15th with this resolution, and we have plans to launch the application on July 16th if you give us the green light to do so. And so we will open applications for 1 month, and you see the different support mechanisms that are in here. We have a variety of both online one-on-one support as well as in-person drop-in support. And then at the bottom of this page, you see the dates that we've mapped out. So my goal right now has been to have funding dispersed by the end of the calendar year. We are behind for this cycle because ideally we would be approving grants in July. It's the start of the new fiscal year, right? Right now I'm just trying to open our applications later this month. So because of the challenges of last year, we're behind this year already. So this gives applicants roughly like a 6 month, 7 months if we're counting December, which is not typically the most productive month, right? So it gives artists and organizations a grant period a period from which they will have their funding anticipated sometime probably end of November to close out at this time next year. So in an ideal cycle, if we were fully back on track, we would be approving grants right now. This puts us approving grants at the end of September, money out the door in November. So happy to answer more questions about what this process looks like. I feel very confident that we will have a smooth rollout. with the plans that we have for that. I do not anticipate having a lot of the challenges that we had last year with everything from application confusion to communication to capacity, and we have fixed a lot of our processes as well. And so we've just redone a lot in the, or we've improved a lot in the last 5 months process-wise. So happy to answer questions about that if you have them. And then the other things that you have in your packet here is just the full operating and Thrive guidelines that are approved by the Arts Commission. The legislation that you will receive at the next meeting, again, is not going to be this full packet. It's just pulling out the criteria. But I want you to have the full packet because it's what we are doing. And then every year the budget ordinance also requires us to submit a comprehensive list of all of our grantees that we have funded from the previous cycle. So part of that will also be the Thrive and Operating Awards from the cycle that we are in the closeout period for right now. So that is what you have in your packet there. And I have other resources if you would like more information, but a summary or a report of some of the descriptions of the community meetings that we've done as we wrapped up the current cycle and got ready for this next cycle, and then the sort of background and justification for the fiscal sponsor framework that we're using right now. So I will leave it there. I could always talk more, but Councilwoman Stiles has requested the floor as well, and you might have more questions. So
We'll turn it over to Councilwoman Stiles, and then if there are other members too, and then I've got some additional information to share before we end out.
So, thank you, Chair. I want to start by saying thank you to Ms. Bouchelder, because you jumped into a dumpster fire and have really managed to tamp most of it down. Still a dumpster fire, not flaming as bright. Without you, we wouldn't have had legislation to have been able to move forward earlier this year. You really saved the day. I think there are a lot of things that this committee has not been presented. There was information that we needed to have heard at this committee, or especially called meeting, to really know how wonky things have been since last year, when we thought just getting rid of Director Singh was going to be the solution. I think we had an opportunity to hear today from Ms. Hall about the dissatisfaction of artists, even with the outcome right now. Ms. Bouchelder came in after a lot of this stuff really came in, and is really trying to, for lack of a better expression, polish a turd. I will be a no with the legislation that comes before us. I sat in on 3 community sessions, 2 of which were not even recorded, with a staff member, correct, who is no longer with us, right? Do we have a staff, the grant manager? Is the grant manager still with us or not with us anymore?
I'm not sure that Metro Arts had meetings that were not.
There was, yes, the meeting that I went to for the community engagement that should have been streamed, there was nothing. There is nothing recorded. And I went, there were 2, 1 was virtual, 2 were in public, and both of those public meetings had absolutely no recordings whatsoever. And they were put together at the very last minute. So if we're going to talk about equity, and this being our one department that has equity in the statement, we're going to talk about distribution of funds, again, I'm going to say, this is not about you. You've come in and tried to clean things up. But the mess that was made last year has never fully been cleaned up, and now we're trying to tie some loose ends together. We vote on this legislation that comes before us in 2 weeks. We are doing a disservice to the artists in this community. The system that was set up previously by the director that is gone worked so that operating criteria, it was public. They felt good about it. Organizations felt good about it. We don't have that right now. We have regressed. So if we're going to regress and then vote on this, then we will all be complicit in not making sure that equity gets taken care of. And I think that if we are going to make decisions like that, we need to make sure that everything that should have been done got done, and I don't think that. I think that Ashley has made lemonade out of lemons. I think you've done a phenomenal job. But I do think that commissioners somehow have still missed the mark in what criteria needs to be. We are still focusing more on organizations than the Thrive grants. If we're going to be fair, then it's a 50-50 split, and we're still not there yet. And whatever that justification is, at the end of the day, the point was to address equity. And we still have people sending us emails and complaining. We've got people coming for public comment. When we are in a good place, people were happy with the engagement that previous Director Singh had created and the applications before, the wheels fell off because we were touching, legacy money. I would just feel better if I felt like people that are losing money felt like this was an equitable process. It doesn't seem like we've gotten there yet. I think that we have come leaps and bounds. I'll say that again. Leaps and bounds. We aren't there. I will be a full no because we are not there yet. And it's ridiculous that we're not there yet given everything that took place a year ago. So, again, accountability falls on this council because we have to vote this legislation requiring them to present information so that we know what criteria is. Anything that goes south after that comes on us. And in 2 weeks, whatever gets presented to us, you vote yes. You very well may not be supporting equity. You are supporting us going back towards a status quo position. And I will not do that. Arts in Nashville are way too important. So, thank you.
Chairwoman, do you have any questions for
Nope,
Director
I just
Batchelder?
wanted to make it clear that you're amazing.
Are there any other
but
questions
yes.
for Director Batchelder? About the operating, the grants criteria that's in front of us, that will be the resolution that's presented? Yes.
Thank you
Vice
so
Chair
much,
Bowe.
Chair. Thank you so much for the report. Can you speak to us, and especially those who, may not have the background on how, like you said, I know we're discussing criteria today, but also you see allocation split. If you can just speak to more of the details and how the commission got to where they are.
For how we are approaching allocations?
Yeah.
Yes. So, I did a series of community meetings. I have the report here if anybody would like a copy of that as well. And the way that I talk about this is starting of where we are right now. So this year, and you see this in the grantee list, we allocated $1.3 million to Thrive and $1.9 million to operating. And so that's a 40% allocation to Thrive, which is the largest that it's been in the 10 years or 11 years of Thrive. And so part of the work that's been done in the last few years is about right-sizing grant awards as well. And so we can talk about the allocation between the two grant programs, then we can talk about the allocation within operating awards, because we divide operating, so our arts organizations, up in 5 sizes: micro, small, medium, mid-size, large. And so there's like the overall distribution between the two, and then the distribution within organization. We've heard a lot of like large, small, somewhere in the middle. So when we have that conversation in September, the first decision will be, how do we divide between the two programs? At that point, we'll have data on our applications, because right now we haven't opened applications, so we don't know how many have come in. They haven't been scored. There's no applications right now, right? The way that the operating support funding formula is designed is that we have the ability to sort of allocate based on size of organization. And so, as Christine said in her public comment, and when we talk about equity, historically the most has been going to the largest organizations, and so that radically changed in this year. Some of our largest grants were very consistently $150,000 estimates in that range. The largest grant this current cycle came down to $65,000. The way that the funding formula is designed is that we have the ability to tweak that a little bit. And so like this year, this cycle, some of our smaller organizations also saw their grants go down in size, right? Because when this funding formula was designed, it was also hoping to receive a much larger budget than actually was allocated to Metro Arts. We've talked a lot over the last couple of years about like the underfunding of the arts in this department in our grant budget. And again, this year we have a same grant budget that we had before. So that allocation conversation happens in September. And right now the Thrive project grants being at $15,000 is really on par with the size of organization grants in the micro through medium size, so medium sized categories. And so we have the ability to kind of adjust the formula for where we want to direct those funds. Does that kind of answer the question, or?
A little bit, because like whenever I was looking at the Thrive grants, right, for FY25, I would say majority, right, are around 18, 18, let's say 18.7.
Yeah.
And so to me, that's indicating that either, many of the applicants needed the more than 15. So just trying to understand why that number, and is it based on the budget? So that's why it was reduced. I think helping people understand that would be helpful.
So in the last 2 years, it was a maximum request amount of $20,000. And then once it got to the allocation, there was a conversation 2 years in a row. Well, what percentage are we going to fund them at? So when the maximum request was $20,000 last year, it's like the cycle that we're in right now, that the decision was to scale that to 75%. So that effectively put it at $15,000. But because of the wonkiness of last year, there was a surplus, and that got redistributed to that. So it's much more simple and straightforward this year because the ask amount is $15,000. If that's what you ask for, you will either be funded that or you will not if you don't qualify for funding. So part of why those numbers are so weird is $18,789.63. It was because it was a percentage of the ask with a surplus redistribution. Like, because of the challenge, like we went so out of order this year in this current cycle because we had to do everything at once. We had to approve our criteria and guidelines and allocations before we knew what the application said. So this is about getting things in the right order and the right process and not having surprises in the amounts for Thrive as well. So that 15,000 won't be scaled to something. And the 15,000 kind of allows us to, like, if the grants are larger, there will be fewer of them. If the grants are smaller, there will be more of them. And so the 15,000 is kind of where we landed for something that can still support a substantial project. And, there are lots of imperfections in these guidelines and in the formulas, and they were designed with a hope and a desire that the budget would be much, much more. And so there's lots of things that people have been frustrated in, and I have been talking to people for 5 months since I started this job at our meetings, through one-on-ones, through email, through phone calls, like just trying to see predictability for the next cycle as well, whether that's a Thrive project or an operating grant. And so we've been talking about it enough in the last 4 months that we're, keeping the general way that we're funding it right now. And again, I will say, when I did all these meetings, the thing that people said over and over, if there was one thing that was like consistent, it was get back on track timeline-wise. Don't let what happened last year happen again. We would rather have, like, if we qualify, we would rather have something than the perfect thing that we need to spend 6 months rebuilding. We don't have a runway for that right now if we want to get money out the door. If we don't have money out the door by the time the calendar year ends, then we're not serving the community either.
Vice Chair Bo, did that better answer your question before I move over to Councilwoman Stiles? Did you have another question?
Yes, I did. Well, I don't know if it's a question, and it might also be a statement. It's both. One, we just had an arrival for one of the grant applicants for last year, and I wanted to know if they might be able to share their experience.
Did you invite her?
Well, she just came in.
Oh,
Okay, I'm just
As
curious.
in like a regular, well,
Yeah, that's wonderful. I was
not
like,
be
oh,
on
if you'd
the-
wait, we could have made time for her. Are you here to share a story?
I am.
Okay, I'm so sorry. If you'll wait, we'll conclude the meeting and make sure we make space for her in just a moment.
Sure.
So thank you. I'm so sorry. I didn't know you invited a guest, or we would have made sure that we made you.
part of the agenda.
Yeah,
Okay.
I apologize.
Oh, no.
Sorry about that. But yes, we'll make sure you have time to hear from you in just a moment.
Sure.
Great. Are there any other questions you have, Councilwoman Stiles?
I
Or
think I'll
comments?
wait until, because I made the mistake on our time, which is why she's just getting here now.
Okay.
So she didn't get a chance to sign up for public comment.
Okay.
She would have spoken after Christine.
Okay, sorry. If
It's
I'd
my
known
fault.
she-
It's my- it's-
If you'd let me
it's
know
my
she was
fault.
coming, I
Yeah,
would have made
it's
space
my
for her.
fault.
I'm so sorry. If I'd known, I would have made space. But we'll get to you in just a moment, so
Okay.
just wait a minute. Are there any other questions for Director Batchelder? One thing that I've heard repeatedly, I know it's shared through our public comment, and then it's been an ongoing feedback that we've had through advocacy emails and a constant frustration about how we're having to utilize a fiscal sponsorship or funding. One thing I do want to thank our legal office for Metro Council, which is separate than the law department, to send over information of how we can get around that, what would need to be changed with the current interpretation. So I just want to say thank you for sending that over. And so it looks like we can pursue, it would be a change to the state statute that would then help us and be able to interpret this differently. So I'll work with the council office to get a supporting resolution together to get it in front of colleagues if they want to join, to ask our delegation to maybe support something at the state. But that, maybe we can kind of get behind us some support there to actually change how we can get the funds directly to artists. I know there was a couple of folks who had reached out and had a great kind of email back and forth conversation. One particular person said, they actually have a really good relationship with their fiscal sponsor. So it wasn't about that particular fiscal sponsor and that relationship, but overall the matter still stands. So I just wanted to lift that up with information, and that I'll get that over to the committee, see if that's something we can try to advance with our Davidson County delegation at the state, to perhaps pursue a statutory change that would allow for us to interpret that differently and empower a direct giving model, and we'll still try to pursue some other areas too. But I just wanted to share that and thank those that have reached out for that. That really helped to kind of dig in a little deeper about where the holdups are. Are there any other questions for Director Batchelder? Well, we have her here. She'll be present, of course, or she or members of the Arts Commission always are when we have resolutions, but we wanted to make sure we had her here so we had plenty of time to go through the criteria before the resolution is considered at our next meeting. And we'll also put all of these items if you've got these in email, you'll send those over. We'll put these in the committee folder so folks will have access to those if you're not here. And also if you're like me and sometimes you lose your hard copies, you can go back there and find it. With that, I'm going to leave this speaker on. I'm going to formally close the meeting, but give you time. So for members that can sit and wait, that way we've got a couple of members that will have to go to another committee. What I want to do is ask for an adjournment. I'm going to leave the committee meeting here running so we can actually hear from you, and for as long as we have, we can spend time and you can share us your story too.
If anybody wants to have coffee or anything, a lot has happened at the arts department in the last 5 months that I can't go into here. So always happy to sit down as well.
Thanks.
Thank you. So that was for all the committee members here. Share an open, standing coffee date here. But with members, I'm gonna ask if you'll please, if you're able to stay, please stay, and I want to see if you'll come up here. If you're not, because I know our committee is scheduled to end, we also got started late, so that as well. But I know we've got a couple of members that also have a competing committee member meeting. But for official business, if there's a motion to adjourn, please please give me a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. With that, for members that can stay, please do. And I'm gonna leave this running just so we can hear from you. And okay. Bye, Councilmember. So we've got a couple that have another committee meeting. So, all right. Thank you so much for your patience. I was gonna say they're both on that same next committee, so I was hoping if we got one, we might keep them both.
Okay.
But, if you'll introduce yourself, and it's informal at this point, so just share with us what you'd like to.
Yes, my name is Ingrid Brown, and I'm the president of the International Black Film Festival. I founded Hazel Joyner Smith, and we've been in business now, serving the artistic community for 20 years. Filmmakers, TV people, movie people, theater, and we have been in the trenches in making sure that our artists have access and opportunity and education. And so for the first time, when we were 18 years old, we were invited to apply for the Metro Arts Grant for the first time since we've been in existence. And so we were encouraged to apply, and we did. Very shortly thereafter, we were, of course, got involved with some of the issues that were happening at Metro, being a new applicant. So those issues kind of even persisted a bit through FY 2025 on this last grant cycle. So we applied in January 2025. January 29th of 2025, submitted our application for a Thrive and grant at the time because the new regulations had not were not set at that time. They expected a regular grant cycle. When the new regulations came out and they reopened the grant cycle for FY 2025, our applications were not present in the submittable in the platform that's used.
Did you reach out to Director Batchelder?
Yes.
Oh, wonderful. Ashley, come on up. It's like, come and have a seat. That way you all can kind of talk through and share kind of the experience that y'all were able to kind of collaborate on.
Yes. So during that time, so being fairly new to fairly new to the Metro Arts process, I reached out, spoke with someone at Metro Arts, and she kind of guided me through some of the issues that I had with setting up my account. I was creating new applications, not realizing that the old ones were not there. They were supposed to be there. So, but she never said, hey, oops, you're working on new applications. You should have this in your account. So to date, they're still not there. When we applied for the grant, when the new grant cycle was open, my understanding is that the grants should have been there in pending status, and you had, according to the new guidelines, if you applied for both, you were supposed to choose either the Thrive grant or the operating grant to move forward with. But we never had that opportunity because those grants weren't there.
Okay. And
Yeah, cool. So I actually had a chance to meet with Ms. Batchelder
that's what I understood.
and also Ms. Brown in the last week so we didn't have middlemen and just hearing one side. I wanted to see what was happening. What was Ms. Brown seeing in her system? What is Ms. Batchelder being able to see in her system?
So all three of y'all just met recently as well. And
Yes.
you all talked through have y'all met before too? Through this process, or talked at least?
We've talked.
Yeah,
We went through the appeals process. The appeal was denied, and so I still had a concern because the grant, we didn't get due process, right? Because the grants weren't there. They're still not there for records purposes to review, refer back to. There's a closeout report due, any of those things. So we still don't have those grants available. So really, just if I were to push my concern is. We haven't still followed through on where the grants are. I think Ashley is able to see them, but I still don't. If I would go back and say, if anybody would have asked me where to send those grants and to refer to those grants, I don't remember completely from January 29 of 2024. So.
Ashley, sorry.
I would say, I don't think I can reiterate this enough. that I think Ms. Batchelder is doing a phenomenal job, but I also think she's doing a lot of cleanup. This application was from '24.
Okay, so
She
from
can't.
2024?
Yes, this is from
Okay.
2024. This is not from this year.
Yeah.
This is not
Okay,
showing
so
in the
when you
system.
shared, it was earlier this year, so
Yes.
yeah.
Okay.
It's not,
Yeah.
so the previous application wasn't there, so as we went through this whole process of last year and all the shenanigans, when they go into the system, and I got to see it for myself, they can't see the applications, but Ms. Batchelder can see them. Part of the problem is that the application was supposed to have been reinstated. It has been deleted. Per the submittable individual said, it's not there, but the only way that it can be deleted is someone that has access, which is only Metro Arts, deleted the application, but they can't find it either.
We're not able to delete it either. I'm just like, what's what can we do what's the solution that we can?
Right, so I think, so we kind of talked about the solution, and we never really said, because I've asked for, there's no history,
From
accurate.
what you're accessing from your login.
For my login, that
From your
the
login.
application is still not there, and so
And-
for purpose of records purposes.
And can I ask one other thing? And Ashley, so from your side, you can see all the information? Is that what you're saying? From like her login, she can't see it, but from the Metro account side, you're able to see the information, or is that?
Yeah, it's what the grant this year was based on. So it was still funded, and I processed your payment last week after we had our meeting. It takes, I think I explained it has to go through the central finance system. Like, I don't have a way to make it faster than as fast as it's going. And so,
So if you processed the payment last week, how long does her organization have to spend that allocation?
it's the contract period of January 22nd through yesterday. So, but it allows you to backdate. It's the special permission or the special
For this year.
consideration that we worked with with legal and
Okay, so she has an
Finance.
exemption.
No, we can
Well-
fund things back.
we signed the contract before the end of the fiscal year.
Okay.
last
Okay.
week.
And you already had your event, and now basically you are getting reimbursed for what you already paid for your event, correct? Or your
Right, so I want to be very clear about something, so just really clear. So this isn't necessarily about the award, it's about my information that's missing.
Right, it's about
And-
records.
Right, records about my public information, all of that stuff is null. And even in the beginning, when the cycle was opened, about due process, right? So we didn't have the opportunity, per the guidelines, to make a choice between Thrive and operating because it wasn't there.
Right.
So we didn't, we just took
For
whatever.
2024.
For 2024.
2024, yeah, those weren't there. And is that
Right.
been remedied in the new, or, I mean, I don't know if that's something that, it's
About which grant?
yeah, about which one to
We just
to
passed
choose
over
from.
it. Nothing has been done about that, nor are the grants back. And so to be clear on what I'm asking, what the resolution is, I understand we went ahead and took the grant money. My concern, serious concern, is our information. What happened to it, why was it deleted, why is it not present, why is it not restored? So there are two issues. We did not get due process during the time because the applications were not present at the time of the new revised cycle. Secondly, it's still not there. So if I'm referring to my grants, there's a closeout report due, reporting on my end that I have to do for other grants, other funding, board stuff. I have nothing to refer to.
And Ashley, are you able to get her that? Okay. So she's able to send you all of that information, and then if it's a portal login issue that, I mean, unless I'm missing something, is it a portal login issue from?
So I guess my concern is, in having seen the communication from Submittable,
Yeah.
the explanation was, if anything is missing, the only way it could be missing is if the people that have the certificate to use it would be able to delete it. But then the also message says they can't
Well, good news is
find
you got
it.
Director Batchelder here, who's just
Right,
saying-
I've seen all the emails, so
Okay.
I'm coming back to my point, because I want to make sure that what we do, we again have to vote in 2 weeks, and I'm worried about artists
the-
being taken care of. I'm not worried about defending
guidelines.
our departments or anybody in them. Again, if I wasn't for you, I'd say it, and I think you've done a great job. However, we are still dealing with fallout from last year. And when you hear something like this, where you cannot see your records, and Ashley is doing her best, she came and she sat down, and we sat down for like an hour and a half to explain what's happening, but there isn't an explanation for how their application disappeared, and then in the meantime, they get their money at the last minute. They're missing. There are things that are still happening that as we try, if we make decisions, which unfortunately often happens with us, which is if we don't make it, the world's gonna end today. And this feels like another one of these situations, because if we
It's not the
don't
world,
approve
it's just
it
the
in
funding
2
won't
weeks,
start.
if I can finish,
The application
in
won't
2
open on the
weeks, if we don't vote on it, then we don't get to stay on
Well,
track, but we also
yeah.
don't get to make sure that a system has been created that is fair, that people feel good about. There isn't a perfect system, but I would say that if we look back and we talk to organizations and we talk to artists, for the first time when we had equity, if we're not at that place again, then we're failing. And if we vote on this because we want to stay on track, then we're not getting to the place that we need to be, which is where we were starting to get 2 years ago. And I think we're close. We just might need a little bit more time to fix it so that it could be in the right track.
So one thing here, I know we're not actually having a formal meeting. Like I said, if I had any idea you were coming, Councilwoman Stiles, you know, I would have made space here so we could actually have an actual meeting, conversation about this. So I'm sorry you're here without that respect. I apologize for that. But I do want to, we do have the meeting running here, so I'll leave it open for at least 4 more minutes to 5:30, since this isn't an actual, council meeting anymore. But for the, commissioners, I know you're here as well, and you want to be recognized, but if you'll wait just a second. Would you address that system issue, so you're able to get her the documents? Is there a systems issue there for that? I mean, because that clearly, I think she's right, that's concerning, that she can't get access to her documents and how she's going to close
Not
out
in
with
paper
other.
form either. I'm talking in the digital system.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so anybody wants to see, I'm also happy to pull my laptop out. So I can get the exports of the applications if you need those. I know that I shared the main one.
That's
When
the
we-
restored one. That's the one that didn't exist and then had to be
It's
restored.
the
and is there.
application that is funded, that has the closeout report due. So I know that there was the issues with your application. I have not seen this with any of the other hundreds of applications that we use. We use Submittable for all areas of our department, for public art calls as well, for donation requests, for panelists, for grants. There's great customer service with Submittable as well. I mean,
So this is a problem, but not a systemic problem, but it's still a
Correct.
problem.
It's still a problem. Yeah, and that's just my request is
Yeah.
that, is that if we have all these other entities that have access to their records, I want access to mine in the system, not on a paper form, right? And so when Submittable said, hey, Ashley asked Submittable to restore the application.
Yeah.
They restored it,
Okay.
but it wasn't the one from January 29th, 2024.
It was the redone
It was the
one.
new one I created with the date from last year attached. So it's all wonky and
Is Submittable able to, in that system, able to add any of this, or does she need to create a whole new profile? I don't know how this system works, so.
there will be a new project, they're called, with the new application. So we are starting new application. We don't have to go back to last year's application.
So she won't need that, or any other applicant won't need access
Correct.
other than the closeout. And so she'll get access to her records, but it won't be, as you were asking,
Be the
for
original.
that original rather than that restored, which is what you're
yeah.
asking for.
And I'm concerned about, and once again, we didn't have due process in the beginning because it wasn't there.
So you weren't able to make that up, that
No,
choice.
I'm a fiscal sponsor. I have a
Yeah.
magnificent relationship
Yeah.
with them. I love it.
Yeah.
And so we were going through their
Which
stuff.
includes Councilwoman Stiles.
When we went through the fiscal sponsorship, I saw that they had their original applications there from January 2024. So then I was like able to see that they were in pending status and how they were able to update theirs. I said, oh, we never had that.
Yeah.
And so, for records purposes, for legal reasons, for me, for our
having all your
organization,
stuff there for that.
I would like to have it back. I know we can generate a paper copy.
Yeah.
But you know, I've been going through this process blindly,
Yeah.
absolutely blindly, with no, we didn't even get us say, oh, let's stop this process for you specifically. We got an issue here.
To stop the whole process.
Yeah, for us,
one
because you have,
applicant.
we didn't get that. It's like, you know, the appeal was denied, all of those things. So no one said, and I told the commission, I said, listen, I said, there's not enough time. 3 minutes is not enough to go through something that is an internal and or administrative issue here. It's not 3 minutes, we're not gonna get through it. And so they denied the appeal, and I had to continue on because we still have, today, we still have an issue.
Okay, with this, I'm gonna close the recording of the meeting and,
Could I ask